Now, starting the conversation with this, as Lagosians prepare to adapt to the new law effective from February 1st on the ban on motorcycles and tricycles in 15 local councils in the state, there are reactions on what becomes of the operators and their passengers who largely depend on the services of these means of transportation.
Very well said. Gbenga Omotoso, Commissioner for Information and Strategy, had announced this earlier at a press conference in Lagos on Monday. He said the decision was made after a review of casualties. Asked if Opaym and Gokada and motorbike hailing services will be affected by the ban, Omotosho said all forms of commercial motorcycles. The ban cites a 2018 law to ban that's motorcycles and rickshaws, and this will ban them from 40 bridges and flyovers, area covering the business district of Victoria Island, Lagos Island, Apapa, where the primary port is located, and Ikeja, which is home to the international airport.
However, it is believed that this is the first stage of the state government's plan to sanitize Lagos roads and protect Lagosians from the negative effects of these modes of transportation. The law is very clear. Motorcycles, also known as okadas, and tricycles, popularly known as kekes, are banned on all highways, bridges, and certain listed roads. Joining us now is the Honorable Lagos State Commissioner for Transport, Dr. FREDERIC OLADEINDE. But before we begin our chat, let's take a look at this report on the aborted planned protest by some tricycle operators in Ikeja, GRA, yesterday.
We are here live at PWD somewhere here in Ikeja, and to our greatest amazement, the planned protest is not holding. What we learned is that the park owners are against it, and they are ensuring that nothing like that will come up here.
We have addressed all our riders in GRA that we does not have any issue with what is on ground.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it means the 6 local government, the 6 LCDAs that the Lagos State government said the tricycle and the motorcycles are not to apply, is being complied with here.
You know, actually, everybody have been learned. Where I believe they are referring to, when they say Onugbongo is under Ikeja local government, and I believe the Lagos State government, which has been on ground for long, they are talking the aspect of the bridge. We does not have any bridge that we operate on in this our GRA.
Okay, so it means the tricycle, they are allowed to apply here?
Our tricycle is allowed to apply here.
Okay, so now, let us just find out from you, because it's now interesting, the conversation is interesting. Initially, if you had allowed us to have this kind of conversation to help the fact that there is no protest, it would have helped douse a lot of things. True or false?
Some people may call you people that there is a protest, but as for us, the commander in charge of the Marwa, there's nothing protest in this our GRA.
Okay, so it means somebody is spreading a false rumor.
Yes, somebody is spreading it. There's no any protest in GRA.
Since the Lagos State government has issued this, it's 6 local governments, and it's starting 1st of February. Okay. Are there any reaction from the people here in terms of ensuring that everything said is being complied with? Because they said they want to save life, and there is crime, and there's so many other things, and by putting check on these things is going to help the community to fare better. Are you in line with that?
I'm in line with that. We don't have any problem within our jurisdictions. This is where we are more or less like a landlord within this. I'm the CDA chairman of these jurisdictions, and I believe the aspect of security, we have ensured that all our members and the Marwa people will control all their performances.
Okay, so how do you have their database? Do you know them? How do you relate to them?
Majority of them are part of our community.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the show, sir. I'm sure you've just seen that VT, and let's just go straight into it. Now, yesterday, there was supposed to be a planned protest, and that didn't happen. Now, the reactions on social media has been that the Lagos State government didn't put into consideration how these Okada riders are supposed to fare for themselves. Also, there's the add-on where even the bike companies, the Max Rides and then the Opays and Gokadas have come out to say that, you know what, in about 100 incidents, we've only had 7 serious casualties and 0 fatalities. So to some extent, they have been able to manage these Okada riders. Isn't this a more viable solution, going through these companies as opposed to putting a total ban on it completely?
Thank you for that. Let's make something clear here. Sorry. We haven't imposed a total ban. What we have done is to restrict Okadas in certain areas, as well as highways and bridges. Now, when you look at the figures, because we've done our research, we've consulted, and we've gone out ourselves, you will find out that in the last 3 to 4 years, over 10,000 people have been involved in major accidents. When you go to our general hospital, and it's more, I mean, these are just cases in major general hospitals. We're not including private, etc. But when you go there and you see what has happened to our people, it's shocking, it's horrendous. Apart from that, over 600 people have lost their life. And some of the research we've done include going to OLADEINDE, going to Mile 2 in the midnight. And what happened is that you see drones of lorries and Okadas, you know, being dumped in the night, and then these people simply disappear. Now, government is sensitive to the livelihood of Okadas as well as tricycles. But let me throw something back on the table. What happens when you have a lot of these people who are not registered? You can account for them. They carry weapons. I mean, what happens one day when they just rise up and then they just take over the whole state? People would say, what was government doing? How did these people come in? Why did government not react? And this is more of a safety or security measure rather than taking people's livelihood. Now, apart from that, the government is doing a lot to ensure that people are employed. We have the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund that has been helping a lot of people to get into jobs. We have the Women's Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, training women to sew and to do other stuff and set up small businesses. We have the civic engagement that has been helping people to set up small businesses. So we are doing a lot to make sure that we create employment. We're not taking employment away from people. What we're simply doing is to ensure that we have an environment that is safe for people. Now, a lot of businesses are leaving Lagos because they feel that the security threat is high, and we need to respond to that. So, I mean, you could also look at it and say that the fact that these people are increasing here is actually taking, jobs away. So we have to balance it. This is government. Government has to put security and safety first, and that's important.
Okay, sorry, I want to quickly speak to the things you've talked about. So you talked about the fact that these people might be carrying weapons and the likes, and and you have incidents of crime and criminality. But a lot of people will be quick to point a hole and say, what's the alternative? Because you see, you ban these people. Even we business owners, we use these people. There was a day I had to catch a flight to England. I had to take one of the services and get on the 3rd Mainland Bridge because the roads are all blocked. The traffic situation is a mayhem. And secondly, I know there is an Agbero union. Agbero means, local, bus canvassers that bring passengers into the bus and the likes, that they collect money from these people. Couldn't government have used these same unions that are closer to these people to be able to get a database of these people and get a registration mechanism in place? Because you talked about, I want to be safe, so I want the data of those people. I want to be able to, mark out this person writing this. And goes back to the ride-hailing companies. That's the edge they bring. They have their data and the likes.
Okay, I will respond to that, but let's make it clear. Lagos is a mega city. The concept of Lagos, the smart city concept for Lagos does not include Okada or tricycle.
Right.
The concept looks at an integrated approach to moving people around. So we're looking at rail, we're looking at developing our water transport, we're looking to reform the bus network, and then we are trying to integrate the whole thing in such a way that people can move seamlessly from one point to the other. It's a mega city, and sorry about that. I've been talking all day. It's a mega city, and tricycles. No, that's fine. Okay. Tricycles and Okadas. I mean, cannot be the means of moving people from one point to the other. You won't see that in the United Kingdom. You won't see that in Singapore. And we have to find a decent means for moving people. Now, to respond to what you've just said in terms of collecting the database, we do have a database of some people who register, but not everybody registers. I just mentioned the fact that a lot of people come in the night and, like they dump the motorcycles and then they come in and then they simply disappear. That's a security threat to Lagos, and we have to take some action. Now, secondly, it is not a total ban. It is a restriction. Areas where we have restricted them to, we understand the fact that the network is not well developed there, but areas where we have asked them to move away from is well developed. So you have the bus network well developed. LBSL, that's Lagos Bus Services Limited, have been rolling out some buses. We have 600 more buses in the port that we're going to roll out also. Water transportation, we have been developing that over time. So just touching
on the buses, we had the MD of Primera, one of the bus operators, come in.
Okay, that's the BRT.
The BRT, saying that the environment for running the business is not quite conducive. Even access to get credit to be able to bring
in more
buses is very difficult. And he was lamented treacherously. Yeah.
Well, I mean, his case was unfortunate because remember that he actually got credit and then he brought in the buses before the devaluation of the Naira.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he did his transaction in dollars, and the revenue goes back to him in Naira. So that's an unfortunate case, but it doesn't happen in all cases. Okay. So, and government has been trying to rectify that also. So, I mean, we're trying to ensure that his business keeps running. Government is not insensitive to what has happened to Primero, and we're doing everything possible to make sure that Primero doesn't die. But having said that, the point that needs to be made is that safety and security is paramount. We cannot watch our people get injured. We cannot watch our people dying. You see, it's very easy to say that we're not sensitive to these people, but you need to go to the general hospital. You need to go to the families of those that have been affected. You need to ask them the question, so how are you surviving? And it's a sorry state. It's painful, and we have to put a stop to it. We are government, and we have to protect our Lagosians. We have to protect our people.
I like the fact that you keep reiterating safety and security, and I understand that. I have personally been in altercations with these Okada riders because they have no sense of urgency or safety on the road. However, we're going to go on a quick break now, but my next question to you is going to be the fact that if there's a ban, there's going to be a congestion. So if we have about 1,000 Okada riders now, and we've cut down the pathways that they can go around Lagos, we are going to see a congestion in some areas, and then we're going to see a lot of people are going to be left jobless. We're going to come back to that on a quick break now. Welcome back to the morning show. We're still joined in our Lagos studios by the Honorable State Commissioner for Transport, Dr. FREDERIC Abimbola OLADEINDE. Now, before the break, the question I was trying to ask you is, one, are we not going to see, congestion in certain areas since the number of Okada riders have not necessarily reduced? They've just been reduced to certain parts of Lagos. And secondly, we're seeing that a lot of these Okada riders that ply these roads that have been banned will almost be out of a job. And you've spoken about safety and security, but we know that if these Okada riders are unemployed, so to speak, it directly affects the rates of growing crime. So that in itself could be a problem, because when they are jobless, then they have time to terrorize people, to steal, to loot and do all these criminal activities.
Okay, let's also get something straight here. The reason why you have more Okada riders in Lagos is because they've been banned in other parts of the country. They've been banned in Kano, they've been banned in Kaduna, they've been banned in Edo State and some other states, and all of them have simply come back. I mean, they've all simply come to Lagos to ply the trade. So if we put this restriction in place, some of them will simply go back to where they came from or find other means of earning a living. So we can't say that because we have to think about how these guys will, would be employed, will put the life of our people at risk. I said before that there's a lot of programs that is that the government is that has put, they put in place to ensure that people get employed, people can start up their businesses, etc. So that's in place already. But what you don't want is a situation where Lagos becomes a free-for-all for everyone. We don't want to be a dumping ground. Lagos seems to be absorbing everything from Nigeria right now, and it's not sustainable. So we have to make it difficult for people to come into Lagos, because the people that we want to come into Lagos are the people that will contribute to the economy of the state, the people that would abide by our laws, and the people that would improve the quality of life in Lagos. So we have to put certain measures in place to ensure that we protect that. Let me also give you another example of the security risks that these people pose. God help you if you hit an Okada. 50 Okadas will come around, they'll lynch you, and they can kill you also. So that's a risk to you. So it goes beyond, people moving from A to B, or maybe employment, looking at the employment issues. It is simply a security issue here.
Okay, let me come in here. Some quick hard-hitting questions. You talked about the Lagos Integrated Master Plan that involves rail. We can't see the rail. And you want to ban motorcycles? Secondly, people like Opaym and some other people that are employer of laborers, that brought in billions into this economy. Raised about over 50 million. Where do you want to keep them? Okay. Thirdly, this law has been on ground before. We all know that it's members of, the security force that started breaking this law, and we started seeing them on motorcycles on the expressway. Are we not sending a bad signal to investors?
No, we're not, because investors are not even coming in because of the security threat in Lagos.
There are a lot of is coming in with $50 million. $50 million.
Remember that.
$50 million.
Yeah, that's fine. But remember that the concept that we have for Lagos does not include Okada or three-wheelers. So if you're coming in to do business where you know that this is not part of the long-term plan of the state, then you're taking a risk. That's number one. Number two, it's unfortunate that, this law has been in place for a while, and the problem has always been the implementation. So what we're simply doing is trying to, enhance the implementation aspect. We've had meetings with several security agencies, the police, the army, LASMA, etc., and they're all coming together in the form of a task force to ensure that we enforce this law. So we've had series of meetings, and I think everybody has agreed that enough is enough. We need to protect our people.
Where are the rail lines?
The rail lines, the alternatives for now. So we started rolling buses. Lagos Bus Services Limited rolled out over 100 buses some time ago. They're about to roll out 65. I just said to you that about 600 are in the port. Okay. We'll get them out and we'll start rolling them out. Next week, we're launching 14 boats, and we're connecting those to water transport. The rail line is being developed. The rail line will be ready in the next 18 to 24 months. It's a long
going on. I mean, it's been on for a while. I mean, we all know the historical antecedents of it. Since the time of Latif Jacob-Day, let's say the project was stalled there.
Okay.
But we've pushed the deadline forward. I mean, if we want to say Lagos is a mega city, it's a megapolis. It's the only megapolis I have seen with over 22 million people with no mass transit metro line. It scares me.
Well, the point is to develop, look, Lagos is a state within a country. Lagos is the only state in the whole world that is developing its own rail line. No help from the federal government. So Lagos is doing everything it can to ensure that it develops its rail line. Okay? Secondly, when you look at the economy of Lagos State, 80% of the revenue resides within the private sector. Only 20% resides with the public sector. You don't expect the 20% to develop the whole rail line or the whole network. You need the private sector to participate. Now, when the private sector says that the environment in which it wants to do business is not safe, is not secured, they'll simply go away. And what we're trying to do is to create an enabling environment for investors to come in and do business. Investors do not like to come in where there is insecurity, where their lives are at risk. And that's simply what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the biggest contentions about this is the fact that these bike organizations were not duly consulted. Like he's rightfully mentioned, $50 million is a lot of money to raise for a company that is trying to solve problems within Lagos State. But the CEOs have come out to say that they were not carried along. And then he's also said that, the company's motorcycle engines were all 220cc. That's a 10%, just a 10% increase over the Lagos State requirements. So they're trying to see if maybe exemptions can be made, if we can ensure the security and safety of Lagosians. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that this law be reviewed and looked into?
The law is pretty clear. The law says that you cannot ply motorcycles on highways and bridges. The law says that the law tells you where you can, and the Department for Transport has the power to actually decide where people can ply. Mm. And the law is pretty clear that you can only use your 220cc for commercial, not for passenger operation. We have never put in the law the Okada as public transport, as a means of moving people from one point to the other. So the law is pretty clear. And I said to you in the beginning that the concept, the smart city concept for Lagos does not include tricycles and motorcycles. So if you understand that model and then you simply come and then set up a business that does not recognize this mode of transport, it's a risk that you're taking. Now, I disagree with the fact that they were not consulted. We spoke to a lot of them. They were pretty clear as to what the law was. And I'm sure you will have experienced that when you go on Third Mainland Bridge, etc., even the people that we're talking about break the law. You see them on Third Mainland Bridge, you see them on the highways. And when you look at the setup of these regulated mode of transport, the two-wheelers, where did they get their pools of drivers from? It's the same Okada. It's the same Okada that were driving the 90cc that are driving there.
But they claim they trained them. They claim they reoriented.
When the record speaks for itself. I mean, most of the accidents happen with them also.
No, actually, the numbers that they released, especially, I think this is Gokada, that's come out to say that they've had a total of 2 million trips, and out of those 2 million trips, they've had less than 100 incidents with 0 casualties and less than 7 serious casualties. So looking at that, comparing that to, the 10,000 people that you said we've seen in general hospitals.
I think we have a different record to that.
Okay, so it's their record against yours.
The record is transparent. You just go to our general hospitals, and then in most cases, our LASMA people record the area and then the cause of the accident as well as the bike involved. So we have that record. I
quickly want to ask you this because I know we'll run out of time very soon. But real quickly, I want to talk about even the buses. Yeah. Most of these companies, ride-hailing companies, brought in buses into Lagos to ply various routes. But the unions are kicking them out of the road. I mean, somebody will think air condition and Wi-Fi buses are part of the smart city plan of Lagos, isn't it? It is. Why are the unions kicking them out and there's nobody to speak for them?
The unions are not kicking them out of the whole thing. The bus reform includes the private sector, and then if the union wants to form a cooperative and then be part of it, they are welcome to do that. The work that we're doing with Lamata, etc., there are a lot of operators that have shown interest. And what these agencies are simply doing is to map out routes where they would operate. So the plan is to divide Lagos into about 5 zones and then have super operators that will manage these various zones. So there's a lot of work going on into ensuring that we reform the bus system, and it is the private sector that will run it. What government will simply do is to regulate it and to reduce the influence of the union in terms of the fees that they collect. So this is part of the strategy to ensure that Lagos State is in control of
I was really happy when you talked about reducing the fee the unions collect, because it looks as though the unions are even more powerful. They're like, it's as if they compete with government and so. But thank you so much for being here and talking to us about this. One thing is certain, we'll still definitely have you here and talk about more things you've been doing as regards traffic congestion. The roundabouts, I mean, kudos on that. The roundabouts are going out. Traffic congestion is easing off in parts of Lagos.